Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit more technical analysis on Bitcoin, because in today's video, we need to discuss this recent price action on Bitcoin, and specifically what Bitcoin is doing down here around the support level of $5,000, because we all know that Bitcoin had been very, very bullish for a very long time, but a couple days ago, Bitcoin decided to go ahead and break bearish, and we've been sitting down here above this $5,000 level for the last couple of days. And this is a very important point for Bitcoin. We're at a crucial time in Bitcoin, because what Bitcoin does here over the next couple of days is going to really determine what Bitcoin is going to be able to do over the next couple of weeks. Whether or not Bitcoin breaks bearish and the bears do indeed take control back and the market does indeed start heading to the downside, or if Bitcoin does indeed bounce bullish and start moving to the upside, break some support that we'll be discussing later, starts rallying again. Depending on what Bitcoin does in the next couple of days here around this support level of $5,000 is going to determine what Bitcoin is going to be able to do over the next several weeks. So we're really at an important point in Bitcoin's history, at least for the next couple of weeks. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing whether or not Bitcoin will be able to hold $5,000, or if we're about to see a big bounce and Bitcoin's about to continue this rally that we've been watching for the last 2 months or so. So anyway, guys, that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into it. Bitcoin at the time of recording this video is trading around $5,771.96, I should say. And of course, we have been trading down here for the last couple of days. So of course, the major level of support that we need to discuss is actually a bit of a zone in between about $5,000 to $5,025. As you can see over the last couple of days, Bitcoin has been continually coming down and testing this. We even broke it once, but we bounced back up, and we've been testing this level of support over and over and over again. And guys, there is a point in Bitcoin's history that this kind of test always reminds me of, and it's way back in Q3 of last year. You guys know that I've shown you this several times, but I want to show you one more time. We'll go ahead and do it on the hourly chart so we have a little more definition. But back over here in Q3, I forget exactly what month it was. I believe it was in August. We saw Bitcoin go up and test a level of resistance over and over and over and over and over again. And eventually, Bitcoin went ahead and broke through that level of resistance because it just kept testing it. We kept seeing Bitcoin go up and rally up to this level, and Bitcoin just couldn't get through it. Right over here, we were in July, actually, of 2018. This is quite a while ago now. Bitcoin came up here and tested this level of resistance at $7,500. Over and over and over and over again. Bitcoin just kept trying. It just kept on persisting. Bitcoin had the persistence. And eventually, Bitcoin kept doing that, and then it broke it. Because right here, what we saw is that this resistance level, very strong. But at the same time, the bulls were very strong as well. The bulls were very excited. We were in the middle of a major uptrend on Bitcoin. I remember these technicals over here. We had just completed an inverse head and shoulders pattern. People were talking about bull markets. We had ETF news coming out. This was a big time for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's bulls were very strong. So we came up here and we kept testing this level of resistance. And because we tested it so many times, eventually it broke. Later on in the night here, this is on Eastern time, Bitcoin around 2200 hours, is about 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Bitcoin came up here and eventually did break through this on the wee hours of the night, and Bitcoin was able to break that level. And the reason I bring that up is because it's similar to what we're seeing happen now on Bitcoin, where Bitcoin is coming down and testing this level of support over and over and over again. As I talk about in the videos in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, if a market comes up and tests a level of resistance once, then okay, it establishes a level of resistance. It establishes it twice, okay, it's a double top, it's very strong. Establishes it twice, okay, it's a triple top. This is a really strong level of resistance. But something special happens when you come up and test a level of support or resistance a fourth time. You start saying, instead of saying, oh, well, that's a quadruple top, you start saying, why is the market continually going up here and testing this level? Clearly, the bulls in this case are very strong, and they really want to get through that level. So all the way up to a triple top does actually strengthen this level of resistance. But after that, the reason you don't really hear a whole lot about quadruple top is because when you're seeing that many tests, it's not actually strengthening the level anymore, it's weakening it. And the same thing is true here for these levels of support here. Bitcoin's come down and tested this level of support about 5 times now, if you count all these. About 5 times Bitcoin has come down and tested this, and it's testing it over and over and over again. And when Bitcoin does test it, Bitcoin doesn't bounce very far. It bounces maybe $100, and then it comes down and tests it once again. And that is a major level. That is a major sign of bearish strength. And when you see a market do that, that does typically indicate that you're going to see some kind of bearish price action, and that level is going to be broken. And there are several other things I want to discuss here, but that was the first one that I wanted to open with. The next thing I want to talk about here is actually kind of interesting, because what we see out on the 4-hourly chart is one thing that we need to keep in mind. And that would be that Bitcoin did have 2 higher highs here. I know this is the wrong color. We'll go ahead and change that. Bitcoin had 2 higher highs up here in this kind of ascending wedge pattern. But at the same time, we had lower highs on the RSI. I discussed this in a previous video, but I need to bring it back up again for what we're talking about. Bitcoin saw classical Bitcoin RSI divergence, and that is a very bearish thing. This is on the 4-hourly chart. This divergence is something like this long, and when you see divergence that is that long, typically you're going to see it play out over a much longer time period than just this. It's very possible that we haven't even seen the effects of that bearish divergence yet, and that when we break $5,000, assuming we break $5,000, that bearishness will actually come out then, and we haven't even seen it yet. That's one thing I want to bring up, but the other thing I want to bring up out here on the 4-hourly chart is Bitcoin's MACD. Because as we can see here on the 4-hourly chart for Bitcoin, Bitcoin's MACD looks like it's just about to cross bullish. These two lines have been coming down and been very bearish ever since Bitcoin rallied. They've been, MACD on the 4-hourly chart has actually been bearish during all of this, but what we're about to see is that we're about to see Bitcoin's MACD cross bullish. Now that's really interesting because we seem to believe that Bitcoin's going to go to the downside. All the chart reading that I've done seems to tell us that Bitcoin's bullishness has run out. So what the heck? Why does the MACD not agree with us? Well, there's a couple different reasons why this can happen. One of the reasons is because Bitcoin's MACD was so ridiculously overextended when Bitcoin had this massive breakout that it had to come back down. And sometimes when you see MACD, when you see Bitcoin trade sideways like this, when the MACD is already around the 0 level, already around the histogram, you're going to see a bullish cross just by nature of the way the calculation is done. As you can see, these two MACD lines are already below this 0 level, this horizontal line right here, and that does mean that when the market trades sideways, both of them are going to tend to trend back towards 0. If a market trades sideways and trades perfectly sideways, not a single 1/10 of a percentage move for a year, then you're going to see both of these MACD lines just hover right here on top of each other around the 0 level. So since we're below the histogram right now, these two MACD lines are going to start curving up because we're trading sideways. So it's not really a great signal for bullishness, but it is something interesting I wanted to point out, that we are seeing bullishness on the MACD on the 4-hourly chart. In stark contrast to the MACD out here on the daily chart. As you can see, we're having a bearish cross on the daily chart for the MACD right now. This is crossing bearish, and this is a bad thing if you were hoping that Bitcoin is going to continue rallying to the upside. Because over these last couple of months, Bitcoin has been very bullish on the MACD. We've seen Bitcoin bullish over here. We saw a little bit of bearishness as we corrected. More bullishness, consolidation. This isn't even really bearishness. This is just consolidation. Bitcoin went very bullish. And of course, this is what this corresponds to up here on the chart. Bitcoin turning bearish on the MACD on the daily chart, because the daily chart, don't forget, is a very important interval. Probably the second most important interval behind the daily chart for intraday trading. Depending on who you're asking, the daily chart is going to be very important, or maybe not so important. But just about every single time frame that is trading Bitcoin, unless you're trading within the hour, is going to be taking a lot of interest in the daily chart. So a lot of times what you see is that indicators on this interval tend to be very important because so many people are looking at them and trading by them. And the fact that we've just seen a bearish cross on the MACD does not give us a whole lot of support that Bitcoin is going to be able to maintain support at $5,000. That is really not a good sign, and the MACD crossing bearish is likely going to be one of the factors that drives us below $5,000, assuming that does happen. Now guys, you may notice I'm throwing bullish and bearish signs at you, and we're going to come to a conclusion about what Bitcoin will do here later on in the video, but I do want to present all of the facts of the case, and then we'll go ahead and make our judgment. Because there is one more thing that I want to point out that I just noticed this morning, and it actually kind of throws a bit of a wedge in what we've been discussing, and it's actually not something I've seen anyone else talking about, and it would be this uptrend of support right here. This uptrend of support right here is very, very interesting. Bitcoin has a pivot point back over here. That's my term. That's why you've never heard that before. We have our, this is our set point. We have our pivot point over here. This point defined the degree of this uptrend, and then we have another level of support to reconfirm this uptrend. So this is very much an uptrend now. I would have preferred the market to come down here and reestablish a level of support up here, but of course that would have broken our market structure up here, so I'm not really complaining. Point being, we do have an uptrend of support. But also, we can't just look at the support. We also have to look at the resistance. We also have an uptrend of resistance right over here. And interestingly enough, what that draws, and I know we're on a messy chart, so I'll go ahead and go to a chart that's a little cleaner. These colors are going to be wrong, but you guys know what the deal is. Bitcoin is actually in a rising wedge. Excuse me, not in a rising wedge, in a rising trading channel. We're in an ascending trading channel right now, which actually, if you look at it and you redefine the way that you look at this market on this chart, when we're not being obstructed by this uptrend right here that Bitcoin was above, when we're not looking at that, Bitcoin actually just looks like it's in a rising trading channel. After Bitcoin broke bullish here, looks like it's just in a gigantic rising trading channel. And it's very possible that this does actually play out and that we've been looking at the market wrong. And instead of Bitcoin breaking bearish out of this level right here, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of these so that we can see a little bit better. Instead of Bitcoin breaking bearish out of this ascending triangle pattern right here, Bitcoin is actually just in a rising trading channel. This is very possible. This could very much actually be the way that we should be looking at this, and this could be predicting bullishness. But I'll tell you why I don't think it is, because now we're coming to conclusion time. Bitcoin was very bullish here for a time. Bitcoin broke very bullish. We had massive rallies, kept going up and up and up and up. Bitcoin ran into this ascending triangle pattern, and as I've talked about in many videos, and I'm going to say it again because it's so important, I want you guys to understand it. When Bitcoin breaks out of a major piece of market structure like this ascending triangle pattern, when Bitcoin does that, or indeed when any market does that, what you see is that for a couple of hours, for a couple candlesticks, whatever interval you're on, for a little while, now a little while can be defined differently depending on what interval you're on, of course, but like I said, for a little while, you have a little bit of clairvoyance. You can tell what the market is doing, and you can tell how strong the bulls and the bears are. It's very important that you understand how strong the bulls and the bears are. I've probably only said that 1,000 times, and I think you guys do understand that. But when you see a breakout of a triangle pattern like this, where Bitcoin has been in this triangle pattern since April 1st, we had our April Fool's rally, Bitcoin came up here, and 10 days later, we broke bullish, and we saw one green candlestick. We saw one green candlestick, and Bitcoin only broke out 2.5%, when Bitcoin just a week and a half earlier had broken out almost 25%, and over the next couple of days broke out 30%. One of the biggest moves that we've seen in Bitcoin in a very long time. I do believe it was the biggest single daily move in Bitcoin all year so far. When we saw that only 10 days ago, and then 10 days later we saw this little thing, that's all we got. That is a major indicator of bearishness, simply because it shows the weakness of the bears. If you compare and contrast that rally with that downtrend, obviously the bears are the stronger faction. So when we see Bitcoin coming down here and testing these levels of support like this around $5,000, we need to be careful, because it does seem that Bitcoin is looking more bearish. It does seem that Bitcoin has been on an uptrend for 2 months, and that the bears are starting to take their turn, and that they will be pushing us to the downside. So guys, I've shown you a couple of bullish scenarios, a couple of bullish technical indicators in today's video. I've talked about some bearish stuff, and honestly, I think we're going to break bearish here, and I don't think it's going to take a whole lot longer. I think within the next 3 days, Bitcoin is going to be below $5,000, and then we're going to see a bearish breakout. Now, have I been wrong before, guys? Absolutely. Do your own technical analysis before you go and trade. All that stuff. Don't sue me if you make a mistake. Obviously, I'm mostly joking about that, but I'm not joking about the don't sue me thing. I'm joking about saying it. But of course, over the next couple of days, I do think that the bearish momentum that we're seeing is going to push Bitcoin to the downside. I think we're going to break support, and Bitcoin is going to start trending downwards. And I've talked about levels of support in other videos, but I'll go ahead and discuss them in this video as well. One major level of support that we're going to be looking at is $4,800. Another one below that would be correlating with the 61.8% Fibonacci level around $4,700. That's going to be an important level. We'll go ahead and bust out Fib right now so we can go ahead and show you. These levels of support are actually going to be very important for Bitcoin. Let's get this in the right spot. It needs to be right there and then right there. We see that there is a 61.8% Fibonacci level sitting just under $4,700, and we also see that the 0.5% level, which is not technically a Fibonacci level unless you're using 1 and 2 to calculate that, but nevertheless, it is used as a Fibonacci level here on chart reading. That is corresponding with around $4,800. So both of these levels, and really this comes together just to make a zone of support in between $4,650 and $4,825. Watch out for that to be a level of support. I think before this the next video goes up, we won't see Bitcoin below that, so I'll discuss more levels of support below that in future videos. But for now, if Bitcoin does break bearish, and I think it will, what I think we're going to see is we might see some more bounces over here, perhaps not taking that long. We're going to see some more bounces, something like this. And then Bitcoin's going to break down, and it's going to come testing these levels of support. That's what seems to be the case to me. So tell me in the comment section down below, guys, what do you think of today's video? What do you think of the market, and where do you think Bitcoin is headed? Do you think Bitcoin is going to bounce and continue moving to the upside and inexplicably regain its bullishness and start heading towards $6,000? Of course, I'm not. Of course, that is very much a possibility. I just don't think that that is what is most likely. Tell me in the comment section down below also if you think Bitcoin is going to break to the downside, and we're going to see Bitcoin starting to move down towards these $4,500 and plus levels over the next week or so. I'm loving all of you guys' feedback on the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, and I'm loving reading you guys' comments as always. So let me know in the comment section down below. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.